This is a very big announcement.
The future is definitely renewable energies.
These are big projects.
The march away from coal is on, and each state government is spruiking their own renewables targets.
Our government has the plan. This is a plan transitioning our energy to a clean, green revolution.
A key aspect of Queensland's strategy to reach 80% renewable energy by 2035 lies here, in what's said to be the state's newest pumped hydro scheme.
Here it'll be the lower old grazing areas that'll go underwater.
We're northwest of the Sunshine Coast at Barumba Dam, which was built in the 1960s. It's about to get a multi-billion-dollar makeover so it can store enough energy to power 2 million homes for 24 hours. How different is this area going to look once it's complete?
Well, the lake will be a little bigger and you'll be higher up, but the landscape remains the same here, except that around the fringes, a lot of the fringe country, like what we're beside here, most of that is regrowth since Lake Barumba was first built 60 years ago.
Pumped hydro works similarly to big batteries, filling in gaps when more electricity is needed. When it's sunny and windy, electricity is in high supply, so water is pumped to a higher elevation reservoir. When the sun goes down or there's no wind, water is released to the lower dam through a tunnel, generating electricity as it passes through a turbine. Ian Stebbins grew up in Imbil and knows its surrounding country intimately.
The platypus are in the pool just above the falls, in what we call Swanson's Wash Pool, and they're down out of the gorge around the corner in what I call Platypus Pool because there's so many platypus burrows there.
He's spent the last decade campaigning to protect the local area and turn it into a national park. He successfully worked to alter the route of the transmission lines that will eventually connect the new pumped hydro system to the grid. Yabba Falls here is indicative of the areas of natural beauty that flank the dam. One of the challenges in planning the routes for the transmission lines has been in avoiding areas just like this. At 2 gigawatts of storage, Barumba is just one of 2 pumped hydro schemes planned for Queensland. The other one, called Pioneer Burdekin, is much bigger, offering an enormous 5 gigawatts. The site is 1,000 kilometres north of Brisbane, west of Mackay, and the plan is to link it to the grid by a new single line of high voltage transmission towers at a cost of up to $8 million per kilometre.
I just wanted to acknowledge the stress and the uncertainty that this process does cause.
Near Barumba, locals are worried about the new high voltage transmission lines going through their properties. Powerlink is the state-owned company that's managing and constructing them.
You shouldn't be planning on doing a route without knowing costs of what it's going to cost you.
They're holding a town hall meeting in Manumba on the grazing country west of the Sunshine Coast to discuss a new compensation scheme for locals.
We are here today to engage and to hear feedback about how people are utilising their land.
Look, I understand you're doing your job, but you're not doing a very good job of explaining it or justifying it.
So when we think about what the power system requires, we're looking across the entire state rather than just individual projects.
The head of Powerlink says there will be unavoidable impacts on landholders as the state transitions to renewables, connecting up dozens of new wind and solar projects, backed up by pumped hydro.
We've come up with what we think is the lowest cost solution for Queenslanders, and of course something we'll revise every couple of years formally and constantly in real time.
Simon Bartlett is the former CEO of Powerlink, and an electrical engineer. He has concerns about the current plan.
A basic rule of planning is build your generation, if you can, as close as you can to the load centre. That reduces what you spend on transmission and it reduces the risk of long-distance transmission. But the plan doesn't do that. The plan wants to build it 1,000 kilometres from the main load centre. It just makes no logic to me, I'm afraid.
At the same time, the construction industry is sounding the alarm that there are too many projects in the pipeline and Australia simply doesn't have the workers to complete them.
You've got the Queensland Olympics coming up in 2032. You also have AUKUS has now been added into the mix from the federal government, and then you add in energy transition. The capacity isn't there.
We'll make sure, as we have done on every other significant project here, the Palaszczuk government has delivered best practice industry conditions to ensure that we're able to attract an A-class workforce and that we've got the labour requirements covered off.
Pumped hydro schemes are expensive too. In New South Wales, the cost and delivery timeframe for the Snowy Hydro 2.0 scheme bears no resemblance to what was originally announced by Malcolm Turnbull in 2017. It was to cost around $2 billion and be complete by 2021. Now it's expected by December 2029, at a total cost of up to $10 billion.
If we say it's going to take 10 years, let's say it's going to be 15. There are so many unknowns at the moment, and we really need to make sure we have contingencies on these projects.
We've worked for a number of years considering all of these options, and pumped hydro energy storage is the proven technology that will enable us to reach our renewable energy targets.
The Queensland Government's pledge to switch off coal-fired power stations by 2035 is contingent on its 2 pumped hydro schemes being ready.
It was important for us to map out the best path possible, and there's no reason to divert from the best path possible at this time.
They say it's the world's largest scheme. As soon as someone says that, watch out. There's a reason that others haven't gone that big.